Yeah, in this video, we are going to continue our studies. Here, we are going to generate some synthetic data. So I'll import pandas PD. I'm going to create a data frame with economic data. So we have the year, GDP, inflation, unemployment. I'll run it. I'll convert data into a panda data frame using PD data frame. And then I'll check if I use df. And I'll see if it was generated, and then I'll convert this into, I'll set this as the index. So let me just run this right now with Shift Enter, and we'll see what happens. And then yeah, it takes a bit of time. Yeah, here is it. We have from 2015 to 2022. So we have from 2015, when you put head, it simply gives you the first 5 data sets. And there we go. So what we have to do now is to set this as the index so that we no more have this number. So here we go. I've put set year column as the index. So we have df. df is the data set. We chain it with set index. Set index is a function that takes the year. So we are going to set this as the index. And when we say in place true, it means it's going to keep these changes. So when we put df here, it's going to print it out so that we can see the new data frame. This time I'm not using head, so it's going to print the whole data set. So Shift Enter. Here we go, it has printed the whole data set. You can see that what I entered went from 2022. So now what we want to do, we want to start doing some slicing with it. And here we go. The first thing we want to do, of course, we've already done a bit of that, but now we want to really get into some data, playing a bit with the data. So here we want to select the GDP column. So you can use the square brackets to select it. We know that here we have df as a data frame. We can select any of them just using df. So once I do that, actually, I think the best way for me to do this so that it doesn't take so much time typing is just to do this. Okay, once I do df GDP, it's going to just print it. That's all what will happen. So Shift Enter, and we can see that's all it has printed. So let me see if I put a second column here. Hold on, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so Shift Enter, and there you go. You see it prints it. Now it looks a bit nicer when you have two square brackets, but you can just use one square bracket to be able to go and select what is out there. So I'm going to do another one. This time I want to do it by rows. Let me just come here, and actually you can also do this. You use the head or tail. I'll just say give me the first 2. So it gives me the first 2 rows. Now I want to do an indexing by row. Indexing by row, you are doing it by column. So you just do df and you give the name of the column. By row, you do df.lock, and then you give what you want to choose. Now, if you take a look at the data we have, I want to pick 2020. So I want this row. Just this. So I simply give the name of the row and it should go and get it, given that this has been defined as the index. So normally once I just put .log, it should do the job. So let me get rid of this part, and here we go. Shift Enter, and we have it. It's giving me GDP, inflation, unemployment, and if you take a look, you'll find that this is exactly what it has given me. So now, so that's a bit of slicing. So let's do some interesting filtering. We had initially introduced that, but let's go on with it. So we want to filter some rows. Actually, let me see how I want to post it there. So I want to filter any, so it says filtering rows. So it's going to only choose the rows where the value of GDP is greater than 3. So here initially I'm choosing GDP, and I want only GDP greater than 3. So when you come here, you have GDP, it's going to look for the values where it's greater than 3. Now it's very important to understand, we are choosing DF. DF is the table, and inside that DF you choose this. We've already seen how to choose this. However, you specify that you want the values to be greater than that. Okay, let me get rid of this part. I don't need this, so Shift Enter. And here we have the ones where the GDP is greater than 3. So here we want to look at the case where we are indexing row and column at the same time. So we are saying df.log, we provide the log, and here we provide the column. So if I do Shift Enter, it gives me 1.8. So you can see that the inflation 2019, you can just come down. We have 2019, and this is inflation, it's 1.8. You could have decided to actually give GDP, Shift Enter, and it gives you the value. So you can, so in this case, you simply chose everything for 2020, but you can say 2020, and then you also specify which of these columns you want to see. You can go a bit more precise. On the other hand, we can actually choose more than 2 columns. So we do the df.log, we choose the year or any value we want for the column, and then when we have the comma, we now have whatever columns we have. So this side we have the columns, we are choosing more than one, so we put it inside the square bracket. In other words, we have a list. So I'll do Shift Enter, and there we go. So now we are taking a look at the slicing that's a bit more interesting. So we are not just giving a particular year, we are giving a range. We want to go from 2018 to 2021, and of course we are stating we want GDP and unemployment, only these 2 columns, but we are going from 2018 to 2021. Shift Enter, and we can see 2018 to 2021. That's exactly what we stated here, and we want GDP and unemployment. So now as we move on, we are going to be looking at some very important things we generally use when we are analyzing data. Here we want to filter rows with multiple conditions. So the first condition, of course, we enclose everything in DF, which says this is the data set we are using, and inside that data set, so we enclose the first condition is here. It's very similar to what we initially wrote. So DF, we are choosing GDP, and we want GDP values which are greater than 2.5, and this is condition number 2. Okay, we close it in these brackets. Condition number 2 is inflation less than 2. Actually, I'll say an inflation rate. I don't know if we have an inflation rate which is less than 2. So I'll say an inflation rate less than 4. Then we are sure to have valid things. We have GDP greater than 2 and we have inflation less than 4. Then we can run it and see if the condition holds. And we will be using this when we are looking at a comprehensive project. So you can see GDP is greater than 2.5. and inflation is less than, this is inflation, yeah, this is less than 4. There's no inflation greater than 4 here. Okay, let's move on. So we want to modify our data set in order to run a particular code. So what we want to do is we want to create a list of North American countries, Canada, United States, Mexico, and I want to add the country column and assign North American countries to it. So we are going to run the code. So what we see here is that we have this list created and we are going to add it here to our data frame. So let's go for it, Shift Enter. And let me see, well, the length doesn't match. Why? Because we have about 6 and we should also have 6. So I'll just copy this and just put it twice. Control C, I'll put a comma here. And here we go. So let's run it, shift enter, and okay, the order is 8, so we need to add 2 more. Let me move this down, and let me move this down, put a comma here, run this, and then get rid of 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's see if this time, okay, here we go. Now we want to run a particular code that is going to filter strings, because we now have a data type of string. Anyway, let's check to make sure this is, well, it's string, so there's no need. So here I'll just get rid of this, and here we go. So here we want to look at a data frame and see any data that starts with U. We see that we have 1, 2, 3 starting with U. So shift enter, and here we go. So these are the countries starting with U. You can try C, and you see countries that start with C. So this just shows you how to start interrogating your data set and having fun with it. So in this case, we want to look at any data that has a null value in it. We are going to use the function isNull. So we are saying select anything where it is null and just check the first, check the columns. Okay, so shift enter. So if there's, so we can see that there's nothing, none of the columns having a null value. Else it would have given us, it would have selected where we can find the null values. On the other hand, we can do not null. So if we have null, we are saying is null. We can also do the same thing and say not null, and you can guess what we expect to have. We can have the whole thing, because here we have the values which are not null. Now on the other hand, let's play around. So last time when we did multiple conditions, we used and. In this case, we are using or. So this pipe is just used for or. Last time we used and. So now we want to see that we can also use another one, which is or. So we are saying we want cases where GDP, of course, we enclose everything in a square bracket, and we take the first condition, we put it around this bracket, and we choose where GDP is greater than 3% and inflation is greater than 2.5. You always wrap this in that, and then you put the pipe to say or. So one of them has to be true. The other case, when you say and, all of them have to be correct. Here only one has to be correct, and we go for it. So you can see that in this case you have GDP greater than that, and so it says filter also where GDP growth is greater than this, or inflation is greater than 2.5. So this is inflation. You have cases where inflation is less than 2.5 because GDP is greater than that. So that's just the game. So we are going to look at another function that is really used in slicing your data. So we want to filter rows based on a list of values. So this is your list of values. You want to go into your data and select the results of the list of values. So we are simply saying df is the data set, and we come in, we say check country. You want it to go to where you have country. Of course, this is your country, and you simply say is in. So you will find that we don't have any country that looks like this, USA and Germany, so we don't expect to have anything out of it. Shift enter, so there's nothing out of it. However, on the other hand, if we change this to Canada, then you will do shift enter, then you have Canada. If here you add Mexico, shift enter, then you have it. So if you, at times you have maybe 150 countries and you want to go in and select just a few countries, you just use a list and it enables you to get the job done. Okay, right here we want to filter based on custom functions. What do we want to do? We are looking for those who have an unemployment rate that is less than the mean Okay, you have your average unemployment rate. You want to see those who fall below the average. So you simply, of course, you choose your database, you wrap it in the square bracket, and you put the condition. So you want the unemployment rate, those who have an unemployment rate below the average. Now you choose average, then you chain it with the mean function, and you do shift enter, and there you go. You have those who have and this is the unemployment rate below the average. What if it's the median? We will have a course where we are looking at statistics using Python, SciPy, NumPy for economists. So shift enter, and here you go. This is your median. And of course, if you want, you can actually check what is the median. All you need to do is to copy this, Control C, put it here, I paste it, shift enter, and okay, here I made a mistake. I need this to be GF. I did not completely copy it. Shift enter, and here we go. So we know, so all what we are having are those who are below that number. Now if we just want the mean, shift enter, the mean is 4.1.